here's what's up for today. I have a very messy kitchen, as you can see behind me. I have a big pot with yarn in it on the stove, and I have, well, let me show you, one sec. Oh, I don't know why I'm so tired. I have this many jalapenos that I want to process today, so I thought I would make a little vlog of my stuff today because I'm gonna be doing a couple of handmade things. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Laura. This is the Last Minute Laura channel, and when you come here, you can usually find me making something or doing something crafty. Today, it's gonna be a bit of both. I want to dye some yarn because I have some yarn here that I scoured and mordanted last week, and it's kind of just been sitting on the stove. No mold or anything, luckily, but it's been sitting on the stove in the mordant pot. So I'm gonna take it out of there, and I wanna do some goldenrod because we've got goldenrod blooming in our garden. Wanna harvest it, make a dye bath, and dye that yarn today. But like I was saying before, I also want to get a bunch of these hot peppers into the dehydrator and maybe make some other hot pepper recipes. They're just jalapenos. I have a couple chilies in here too, but mostly red and green jalapenos, a few black ones in there too. So not too spicy, but I wanna do something with them today because I have this whole basket to work with, and I have a goal of making more of our like spices and stuff. So I want to actually put the time in today to do that. And it's cold out, so it'll be nice to have like the stove on because that'll be kind of like, the dehydrator is kind of warm, the stove is kind of warm. Okay, so before we can do any of that, I've got to get this kitchen in order. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll come back and we'll decide what's next. Okay, so kitchen's a little bit better. We're waiting on those dishes to dry. Now I'm going to take my jalapenos and I'm going to wash them. They should be pretty clean. I picked them, and my mom is an organic farmer. But even so, I'm gonna put a little bit of baking soda into the water just for my peace of mind so that I don't feel like I'm gonna eat any bugs. And it's just gonna be lukewarm. So I'm gonna fill the sink a little bit and I'm gonna get some baking soda. Look at all of those peppers. Now I'm gonna take this glass bowl and I'm just gonna scoop these out. Aren't they beautiful? They look like I just want to crunch into them, but they're spicy. So I don't want to crunch into them. But they feel so crunchy. I can't wait to start chopping them up. And now I'm just gonna rinse them all in cool water. Okay, so I think I need to sort them a little bit now. So I think I'll just get all of the medium-sized green ones, or the medium-large-sized green ones, because I know those ones I just want to cut into rings and dehydrate. Okay, so the rest I'm gonna just put into this strainer. Okay, so these ones, I'm just going to put them on top of a plate. I'm gonna put the bowl on top of a plate. Oh gosh. I'm gonna do the bowl on top of a plate, and I'm gonna put these in the fridge for now, just so that they're out of my way. And we'll figure out what to do with them a little later. Okay, so now that that's done, these ones are ready to be worked on. I'm going to do that while the yarn is cooking, or while the dye pot is cooking. So next step is gonna be putting the yarn that's in there into the sink to drain, and then going and harvesting some goldenrod outside. So let's dump this first. Ugh. Okay, so now this pot over here, I filled it about halfway with water. I'm gonna turn the heat on now to a medium low. And now let's go outside and get some goldenrod to put in the dye bath. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it, but this yarn was scoured last week, and then I pre-mordanted it with alum and cream of tartar. So it is alum pre-mordanted. I'm planning on doing one skein of goldenrod just like that, and then one skein of goldenrod with an iron afterbath to see if we get a yellow and a green, which is what I suspect. But let's go do the goldenrod part first. After we get the goldenrod into the dye bath, then we'll start working on the jalapenos. I think first we'll do the ones that are gonna go in the dehydrator. So goldenrod first. So you can see it's just down here. Here's my flower garden. This is like almost up against the house, and goldenrod. And I've been hacking it down all summer, but I decided to let it flower so that I could use it for dye. So the best ones to pick are the ones that haven't opened all the way like this. Once they get to this sort of colony state, there's a lot of pollen that you end up having to like strain out of your dye bath, and also it doesn't yield as bright of a color, allegedly. I feel like I've done both and they both look beautiful, but I'm gonna try and get mostly unopened ones. Okay. Oh, ta-da. That should be a good little dye bath. So I'm just gonna drop this straight into the dye pot. I gave it a good shake outside, so hopefully no spiders are harmed in the making of this dye pot. Now that that's done, I am going to get started on the jalapenos. So let's figure out what we have to do next. So my plan is to just make slices that are probably like 1/4 of an inch. Pretty good chunks, because they're gonna shrink in the dehydrator. The ends I'm going to toss into this bowl. Maybe I'll just cut up a whole bunch first. Okay, I'm just gonna sort of put them on this tray and fill it up as much as I can with these little jalapeno slices. Also, when it dries, the seeds fall out, but they fall and get caught in a catch area of my dehydrator. So I'm keeping those as well, the seeds that fall out, for hot pepper flakes or hot pepper seeds. Oh, geez Louise, that makes us 1 sec. Okay, so I'm just going to put this first layer on the dehydrator, and I'm gonna do that a bunch more times. So I'm just gonna zoom through this part because there's nothing special here, just cutting slices of jalapeno, and then they're gonna go in the dehydrator. So basically it's gonna feel like we're pepper spraying ourselves right now. So I'll see you when I'm done with the other shelves. Okay, so I've got peppers broiling in the oven, serrano peppers. All the jalapenos are in the dehydrator, and now I've got some of the small jalapenos. I'm just tossing them in olive oil, and then I'm gonna put them under to broil. And then once they're nice and roasty, toasty, I'll take them out, pack them in a jar with olive oil. But I'm just gonna finish doing that now. And here's what the dye bath looks like.
It smells so good.
It's flowers.
Well, I'm smelling like the
Peppers too. Well, you're gonna get like a sweet flower smell in a minute. But the flowers are not giving out color yet, but they will. Okay, so it's a little later in the day. I had a friend over, so I didn't get as much filmed, but I did get a lot done. I made roasted serrano peppers, so I roasted them in the oven under the broiler. When they got black and charred, I took them out of the oven, and then I peeled them, and then I packed them in a jar with olive oil. So here they are, serrano peppers. I'm putting those in the fridge. It's already cooled down, so these are going in the fridge. So that's all the jalapenos have now been dealt with, and all of the serranos have now been dealt with. The dehydrator is still full. You can probably hear that in the background. Now I'm dealing with a bunch of eggplants. I have what you missed is basically I took the eggplants, I sliced them pretty thin, like that thin. And I salted them and I put them in this big bowl. And now there's this dark, slimy liquid that's accumulated at the bottom here. See that? And I'm gonna pour that out, rinse the eggplant off, and then I'm gonna do the salting part again. So that's where we're at in terms of food prep. And in terms of yarn dye, let me show you what the goldenrod is looking like now. Ta-da! The dye is not super dark. It's on a low heat, just steeping. I'm honestly happy to let that go right now and deal with this eggplant. All right, so now these have been drained. They're not totally dry, but they're mostly dry. You can use paper towels, but I'm trying to use less paper towels, so So that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna put salt in there again. All right, and now we're gonna leave this. I'm just gonna put it in the oven so it's out of my way. The oven is off. And I was thinking just to kind of like do something natural dye tonight, because I did want to get something in that realm done. Even though the natural dye bath here, let me show you what I'm doing. So even though this dye bath here is like not yet filtered out and it doesn't look super dark, I kind of want to just put one of the mordanted skeins into the pot. Also, yeah, there shouldn't be food here. Let's just move that out of the way first. I kind of want to just add one into the dye pot. I'll be able to rinse out the or the goldenrod stuff later. So I'm gonna just do it, because we should live on the wild side. Oh my god, look at the sunshine color. Look at it. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, cool, good. I'm glad I made the right decision. Look at that color. Is that not the prettiest happy sunshine lemon yellow? Well, we're gonna let that cook. And we're gonna let the eggplant sit. And I'm just gonna clean up another kitchen mess. Close that. Okay, good morning, friends. It's the next day now. It's actually lunchtime. I've been up for a while. I think the hot peppers are done dehydrating now. The yarn, I put it on a low heat this morning. I turned it off yesterday when we were hanging out last, and it stayed off heat all night. So it's been on heat for about 2 hours now this morning. I'm gonna turn the heat off because I'm pretty sure the yarn is, I'm gonna show it to you, you're gonna love it. If you don't love it, that's okay, but it's pretty cool. So we're gonna take the yarn out and wash it, or rinse it out, and then put the second skein into the dye bath. And then we will also put the hot peppers into a jar. So let me show you the yarn first. Okay, so here's the before. Obviously you can see that, but let me take it out. Look at this color. It's like a gold, but like it has that green undertone that makes gold look kind of old and burnished. Oh, so pretty. Okay, let's do the peppers first, and then we'll get into the yarn. This is the jar I've been working on, filling up. And yesterday's peppers, I think, are going to fill it. Also, you hear the seeds are all falling out, but I'm gonna collect the seeds, so it's okay. Oh, they smell nice. You wanna see them? Oh, Jesus, Murphy. You wanna see them up close? So they are like crunchy and hard now. They just break up. And these are the ones that I've been doing prior. So we're gonna add all these there. Oh, spicy. Oh, that is spicy. Here's what it looks like. Makes the air sneezy. Oh, God. Oh, jeez Louise. Oh, gosh. I'm gonna put this thing, a funnel. Takes up less space. Now it'll all fit. That's so good. Oops. There. Now the hot pepper powder is powdery. That'll be a nice thing to add to tacos and stuff. Okay, well now since I have the blender out anyway, I'm gonna take my fermented hot sauce that I've been trying to make, and I'm gonna blend it up because it's been sitting in its salt water solution for over a week now, and it's done the whole fermentation. Oh gosh, my whole nose. I'm actually gonna keep the liquid just in case, but I'm gonna pour out most of the liquid because it's basically salt water. I'll still keep some because it's good to have in the hot sauce some water. Oh my goodness. What else do I need for that hot sauce? I wanted to add some of Candace's pickled veggies because they still have a jar. Oh my gosh. I am so sniffly. These are sweet pickles. I just thought it would be fun to add to hot sauce, so I opened a jar. So fermented hot sauce with, actually, screw it. Let's do all the sweet relish. It's all pickled veggies anyway. Now let's blend that up. My nose is still running. All right, so I added a little bit of the dried peppers that we just finished into this. And now we've got some jalapeno fermented hot sauce. It's a little bit chunky, so hopefully that'll be a nice thing. I'm gonna put a lid on it and I'm just gonna pop it right in the fridge process, but I am really happy with what it looks like. Fermented hot sauce. It fermented for a week, and we're gonna use that tonight on our tacos. Okay, now I'm gonna clean up my mess here, and then as soon as this area is a little cleaner, we will rinse out that yarn. Okay, so that's done. The kitchen is mostly clean. I am still choking on the pepper that is floating through the air, but I'm gonna rinse out the yarn now, so let's do that. Look at that color. And now since this yarn is hot, I wanna use hot water on it. You don't wanna shock it between temperatures. So I'm just gonna spread this out in the sink and give it a rinse with some hot water. And I'm gonna plug the drain now. That was just the preliminary rinse. And now I'm gonna fill the sink with warm water, not full, just to cover the yarn so that it can let any residual pigment that's not holding onto the fiber, that it'll release it. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for a minute, and now we'll go over here and we'll add the new yarn to the dye bath. So probably this skein won't get as bright or dark pigmented gold, but it should still have quite a bit of color in the dye bath. So I'm just gonna put it straight in, and I'm not moving it around, I'm just laying it on top of the goldenrod. And I'm gonna put the heat back onto low, and that way the goldenrod's not getting tangled up with the yarn, it's just sort of sitting atop it. And now we can put the lid back on, and since my ADD seems to be out to get me today, I'm gonna put a timer on for an hour, just so I don't forget that it's there. And here is the dyed yarn. You can see still has yellow. All right, so now the water is lukewarm, like not hot anymore. And I'm gonna fill the sink again, just to cover the yarn, in order to rinse it out. Now I'm just gonna let the yarn sit in here for a few minutes, and then when the water is super cloudy, I'll do one more rinse, and I'll show you what it's looking like after that. Also, while we're waiting for those 15 minutes, it's finally a nice day. It's cold, but it's nice. And also, look at my string of hearts. Isn't she lovely? And this mess, still need to deal with it. Anyway, see you in a few. Okay, so I know I said I was gonna just put it outside after we rinse it off, but I have an idea now. I have 2 sinks, right? I was thinking we could fill the sinks up with hot water, maybe halfway full, keep the yarn like this over between the 2 sinks, and then on one side I could add baking soda, and on the other side I could add iron solution, and we could see if we get 3 different colors. What do you think? Well, I can't hear you, so I'm gonna assume you said, yeah, let's do it, because I wanna do it. So I'm gonna start with the hot water part. So I'm not gonna go super hot on the water, but I'm gonna fill a little bit into each of the sinks, and I'm gonna go get my iron mordant now. So I'm gonna be sterilizing my sink after this, so don't panic, because I'm adding iron mordant to my stainless steel sink, but I'm going to like fully clean it after, don't freak out. So I'm just gonna do a little bit in there, probably more than I needed to do, but we'll just put that in with the hot water and the yarn, and now we'll do the other side with some baking soda. All right, so this is the original color, pre-mordanted with alum. This is baking soda, and the other side is iron. So, in theory, my hope is that this side will get more golden, more yellow tones. This side will get more green, dark tones. We're just gonna let that sit in there for a minute until I see some color change on this side, and that's when I'll probably pull them. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here for a time lapse to see if it will change colors at all, and if it doesn't, then there's a waste of a time lapse, and if it does, cool. Did it change at all? I don't know. I'm gonna rinse them out now though. Not seeing a ton of change either way. Yeah? What? It's okay, I'm moving it. It's okay, I'm done. I just needed to let it soak for a bit. That's okay, you're not disturbing me. Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a color change. Kind of disappointed. Like maybe if I let it sit, like without rinsing it? No, I'm rinsing it now. Oh well, we'll try something different on the other one. Okay, I'm just gonna do a final rinse and then we can hang it out outside. Okay, so it's a couple hours later now. You can hear the dehydrator in the background. I am going to turn the heat off on my second dye pot, and I think I'm going to pull half of the skein out of the water and add my iron mordant to the dye pot to see if that will change the color of the dye pot so that I can get a darker color on my yarn. And there is a big bug. Let me show you what the yarn looks like right now, and then I'm gonna have to figure out how to hang it with it still in the water. We're gonna do some MacGyvering. And then I have to do some sun-dried tomatoes. I'm going to be doing some tomatoes today because the yarn is just gonna be sitting from here on out. We're just gonna let it sit for like the afternoon, and then I'll be washing it in the evening. So let me show the yarn first. Sorry about the lighting. The sun is right in the window. Here is what it's looking like. Happy, beautiful yellow, sunshine yellow. So I'm gonna put that back in, and I'm gonna figure something out to have some of it out of the pot. So BRB. Okay, so here's my brilliant plan. I've got to the handle an elastic hangy thing, and then the yarn is hanging on top of it, but it's also still in the pot. We're gonna try and get another color by adding the iron mordant for a color afterbath straight to this dye pot. And I'm gonna leave the heat on low here, and hopefully that iron is gonna shift this gold probably to, I'm hoping, to some kind of green, but we'll see what happens. All right, well that yarn is doing its thing. I've got a little pot that I'm turning on to a boil. I'm gonna be using that to blanch my tomatoes. So I'm gonna core them first, and then I'm gonna blanch them, and then I'm gonna put them into a bowl of cold water. Then I'm gonna peel them and seed them. Then I'm going to let them soak, or sit, sorry, with some salt on them to drain the liquid. Then I will season them, and then I will put them in a dehydrator. Okay, so now for the second step, these are now peeled tomatoes. I am going to cut them in half, and then in quarters, and that way I can access all the guts, and I'm just going to get all the guts out and then put them into this strainer, and I'm gonna do that until I have a whole layer of the tomatoes in the strainer. This speeds up the amount of time these take to dehydrate, and you still want to keep the fleshy bit in the middle. It feels like it's a core or something, but that'll dry out really nice in the sun-dried tomatoes. This is how my mom does it. Okay, so now that's full, that layer. And just put a napkin here, and I'm going to now get some salt. And for this whole thing, I'll probably use 1/4 cup, but that's not going to be what ends up on these tomatoes. Much less will end up in the final product. So I'm just going to sprinkle it on those bottom tomatoes, and that's going to pull the moisture out of these a lot quicker. And with the cherries, I'm just going to give them a bit of a squish. I'm not going to destroy any of the flesh, but I'm just going to sort of squish the seeds out of it because they're already pretty small. Maybe in halves might be better. Yeah, that's cute. And now I'm going to put a little bit more salt on top of that. And I put a bowl underneath the strainer, and you'll see already tomato juice is coming out of there, but I'm just going to leave that here for probably a half an hour, and I'll come back and we'll do the next step at that point. I am going to collect the seeds and save them for my mom because the tomatoes were not cooked, they were just blanched. So these seeds are perfect. now what my mom does is she gets a plate, some paper towels, and the seeds, and she just spreads them out on the plate. Kind of looks like roe. And the idea is you let them dry and they turn crispy, and then you can take them off the paper towel really easily. Because right now they are so slippery, but now it's time for them to dry out. Okay, so something else that I'm working on is some pickled eggplant. And I'm at the point where I have let them sit with salt 3 different times, rinsing between and drying between, and now they're all brown. They look really gross, but I know they're gonna taste good, so it's fine. And now what I'm gonna do is I need to remove all the excess water, and in the recipe I saw online, it just said to squeeze out the extra water. So I'm gonna try that and see how much I actually can get out of it. There's so much liquid in it still. All right, so the water that comes out of these things is super dark. And this is what they look like now. Not very appetizing. Kind of like a mushroom or something. That's the texture they have too. Okay, so the next step is gonna be to boil them for, I think it's 15 minutes, but I'm gonna check, in a vinegar and salt solution, I believe. And then after we boil these in the vinegar salt solution, we're going to drain them again and then pack them into jars and cover with olive oil. Probably jar. But I'm not ready for that right now, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm just going to put a cover on it so it doesn't get dried out, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge and call it a day for now, because right now we're working on tomatoes, which look almost ready for their next step. Let's check on the yarn. Have you changed color, yarn? It does not appear so. Not yet. I might turn the heat up a little bit. See if that helps. Okay, so I know this has become a little bit much, but now that I know the sink is dirty right now anyway, so I'm not gonna do a whole sterilization of the sink. I'm gonna do another dirty job in it. I want to try and minimize how many times I have to clean this sink in a day. So anyway, I'm gonna fill the sink right now with some hot water. And I'm gonna put my Virginia creeper. I picked some Virginia creeper from the backyard. I stripped the leaves from it. I let it sit outside for like a couple of weeks, and then I brought them inside, soaked them, and then I let them sit inside for a couple of weeks. Now I'm gonna rehydrate them and see if I can make some rope, because it's one of my things on the to-do list is make rope. I'm a normal person, I promise. There we go. And I'm just gonna leave that in here maybe 15-20 minutes. I just want these to soften so that they don't snap when I'm working with them, because when they're dry, they'll just snap. So gonna give that a little time to fully rehydrate, and I'll come back. Okay, so the yarn still hasn't changed color. I'm turning the heat off, and I'm gonna leave that, I think, overnight that way, and then we'll come back and deal with that tomorrow morning. But the tomatoes have also finished, at least as far as I'm worried about draining. Look how much water's in there. That's how much water drained out of those tomatoes. And now I'm gonna give them a quick rinse in cold water, and then I'm gonna lay them out on a paper towel just to finish draining. And then we're gonna mix them with some black pepper and basil, and then we're gonna be putting them in the dehydrator. So let's do that part now. Okay, and they don't need to be super drained off, just enough that they're not dripping wet. And now I'm gonna lay them all out on the dehydrator, and then we're gonna get some herbs to sprinkle on top. All right, so there's that. And I'm just going to take some of my basil from the garden. And I'm not adding any salt to these because the salt that we rinsed off, some of it will have absorbed into the tomatoes, but I'm gonna add some of our already dehydrated basil. And I'm also just gonna do a sprinkle of garlic. Actually, I'm gonna do some black pepper also. And I'm gonna add that into the dehydrator, and those will be sun-dried tomatoes. And there's what the yarn looks like. No major change. Anyway, we're gonna leave that overnight, and I will clean up the kitchen yet again. And now I can sterilize the sink, because I think I'm done doing like anything real bad in the sink. I'm done with chemical stuff. I'm done with, yeah. So now I'm just gonna clean up again and again. So it's evening time now. The kitchen is clean again. And I think it's time to get these eggplants pickled and then preserved in olive oil. So I'm going to get out a pot and I'm going to mix I think it's a 2 parts water, 1 part vinegar mixture. I'm gonna double check what goes in it first. And then I'm going to be boiling the eggplants in that mixture for a period of time. I have to look at that again too. And then after that, I'll drain them from the vinegar water and then we'll pack them into a jar and then we'll cover that pile of eggplant with olive oil. So first let's get a pot together. Okay, so I checked it. It's 2 parts vinegar, 4 parts water, or 1 part vinegar, 2 parts water, but I'm doing 2 cups of vinegar, 4 cups of water, and it's 8 to 10 minutes for the cook time for these eggplants. So first I gotta add the vinegar to my water. After we do the eggplant boiling for 8 to 10 minutes in this vinegar water, we're gonna toss it into the bowl with some spices and a little bit of olive oil, and then we'll pack it into the jars. Super. I'm just gonna turn that on to high to get it going, and when it's ready I'll show you what it looks like. It's a pot of water. All right, the brine, pickling brine, is now boiling, so I'm going to just, I guess, add this to that. And we will boil this eggplant for 8 to 10 minutes. I don't know what I'm looking for, but maybe we'll know when it happens. They look really a lot like mushrooms, but a lot of that darkness, they were all pretty dark brown. And they've all sort of lightened up and the water's getting dark. And I just mixed up some spices here with some olive oil. So after these are finished, we will drain them, let them drain for a little bit, and then we'll toss them in the oil before getting them into the jar. Okay, I think that's been enough time now, so I'm gonna take a strainer and put it in the sink, and then I'm going to dump out these eggplants. We can turn off the heat now. And then we're gonna be letting them drain for a minute and then getting them into that olive oil. The liquid in here is like not a nice color. All right, these look pretty well drained. Nothing is really dripping out anymore. So I'm gonna just dump these into those herbs and spices, and then we're gonna give it a little flip. I'm gonna try and be delicate so that this doesn't turn to eggplant mush. Get some of those air bubbles out. Now I'm gonna just top it off with olive oil. Cool. And I'm gonna use the other side of this. Stab down in there and get any air bubbles. Okay, so this doesn't have to get like water bathed or anything, because it's just gonna go into the fridge as close as we can get to something sort of sterile. It doesn't need to be sterile, but like I said, this is going right into the fridge, and we're probably gonna start using it like next week. So I'm not really concerned about like long-term preserving this. It's just for now. I'm actually gonna use a little bit more olive oil. Actually, I think I might put some chilies into the oil at the top, some of these jalapenos. And all of the eggplant is below the oil. And there we go. So I think I'll let that sit out overnight just because it's hot right now. And then in the morning, I'll put it in the fridge. And that is our first attempt at pickled eggplant. I'm gonna do a little bit of chili oil just because we have the jalapenos and I have jars here. And I just bought olive oil, so I'm like feeling the oil vibes. So I'm just gonna pour in like a teaspoon of jalapeno. Maybe I should do more? A little more. A little bit of chili oil. Never hurt nobody. All right, and then I'm gonna take some olive oil and just cover it on there. And then I'll just leave that out to sit out and marry those flavors, and then it'll be spicy oil, which is awesome. And this will also just live on the shelf, like on my counter, until it's done. I hope you saw that. I hope that was in frame. All right, so that's that for that. Maybe we should do the yarn I'm tired. It's the end of the day. And then I'll have to sterilize the sink again. Let's do it tomorrow, okay? Let's just make this like a week-long vlog, or at least a couple of days. Let's do that tomorrow. I'm going to, once again, clean up the kitchen. I am a Tasmanian devil tornado. I'm gonna clean the kitchen up again, and then I think that's it for tonight. Here we are, next day. Well, here I am, 1 second. Okay, it's the next day. These tomatoes are dry. We're gonna rinse that yarn in a minute. But before I rinse the yarn, I've got a clean jar here. I'm gonna just put a little olive oil in the bottom of it. And then I'm gonna put my little sun-dried tomatoes in. Let me show you what they look like. Ta-da! Mmm. Tasty. Mmm. Very yummy. So I'm just gonna put these all in here. And I'm gonna do another batch of these in the next couple of days. And I'll just fill this jar up over the next couple days. And then I'll have a whole jar of them just to add to stuff. Alrighty, so now let's rinse out this yarn from yesterday. It didn't change color at all. I was so surprised. I really thought we would get like a shift to green from the iron, but I guess not this time. Maybe there's a color shift a little bit. Let's see after we rinse it. Maybe it shifted. Yeah, that looks like two different colors, huh? Yeah, you know what? Maybe there is. So I'm just gonna rinse that the same way I have done for the other skein, and then I'm gonna put it out to dry. And I think that's all for this segment. Okay, so after rinsing, there is a shift, but it's just not a huge shift, but you can tell, right? This one has like a greenish yellow gold to it, and this one's more of a sunshine happy gold. Totally. I'll even flip the side so that it's like, you can see, no matter which way I hold it, this one's for sure greener. It's subtle, but it's there. So I'm gonna go hang this outside, and then I will see you when it's dry. Hi! Okay, so it's the next day and the yarn is now dry. It's just hanging outside. I need to pick it up and twist it up and put the label on it. But before I do that, I wanted to finish one more job with my dehydrator stuff, and then I also wanted to show you the stuff I made this week, because it kind of turned into a like handmade food and yarn vlog, I think. I'm gonna have to look back at this footage, but I think that's what's happening. But I wanna show you the stuff we made together. So this is the jalapeno chili oil. That's dehydrated hot peppers that I added to some olive oil, and that was just a byproduct of some of these other projects, like pickled eggplant. I did a pickled eggplant. I've never done this before. I know it doesn't look super appetizing, but I promise it's pretty tasty. So that's 2 jars of food things. I also did roasted serrano peppers earlier in the week, and they are in a jar topped with olive oil as well. I'm keeping all these things in the fridge because I didn't can them properly. I'm just doing it for like us to eat reasonably soon. Like I didn't water bath can them. But anyway, I'm still happy with them, and olive oil in the fridge is going to last at least a little while. This one is gonna last longer though. This is my fermented hot sauce. I haven't tried it yet. Maybe I'll try it on the live stream tomorrow. Come join our live stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a good time there, but I'll try that tomorrow. And then last but not least, to me, I think the most exciting is this beautiful jar of sun-dried tomatoes. So they are drained, salted, spiced, dehydrated, and then packed in oil. And the oil is already turning red, so that oil is gonna be awesome after too. But before I go outside and get the yarn, so ta-da, that's what I did this week. Thank you for joining me for that part of the week. It was motivating to be filming because I had to get these things done anyway, and it was nice to have you come along with me for that. But next what I have to do is put away some of these dried herbs. I found in my herb cabinet area, I had 4 jars of mint. So I'm gonna try and figure out why I have 4 jars of mint, but I also have more mint here. So I'm gonna start by crunching this mint up. This has been hanging upside down to dry for a couple of weeks now. whenever my mint plant gets like bushy, if it looks like it's gonna start to flower, I just start pulling it off and putting it in these little bouquets and hanging them all over my house. And they dry out in a week or two, and then I can pull them off the stems and jar them up for mint tea in the winter. I did not get almost any chamomile this summer. I hope that I can find some at my mom and dad's farm. I didn't remember to look for chamomile, but I don't have any. I have like one jar from last winter, or last summer I should say, but I didn't have any grow this summer in my garden. Didn't really succeed. All right, so there's the mint now. And I think that this is the same kind of mint as that. Yeah, this is the spearmint. So these two mints are the same. I think this is last year's mint, so I will leave that in its own jar. But hey, we freed up one jar, so that's cool. And after I finish putting this all into this jar and sealing it up, I'm gonna go outside and get the yarn, so stay tuned. Next is the final colors for the goldenrod yarn. Okay friends, so you'll remember this is where we started with the wool. This is the Briggs & Little Regal wool in washed white. And we pre-mordanted the wool with alum, then we dip dyed in a goldenrod dye bath, and then we after bath dip dyed half of the skein in iron solution. So check this out. Ta-da! Look at this color! I was blown away by this color. I honestly, it's the closest thing to like a real gold color. Like it's almost got that green undertone, that like old real gold gilded sort of tarnished look. I love this color. Don't you think? Like what? Look at this color. Look at it compared to where it began. It's stunning. So oddly enough, this one barely has any variation between the areas that were dip dyed in the iron water and the areas that were not. So I don't know, it could have been user error, or maybe the reaction just isn't really there. You can see this area was done with iron and this wasn't. See if you can tell up close the difference between the two. Can you tell that that one's a little less bright here? You can see it in real life. I hope the camera picks it up. I think it does. But that's the first one, and are you ready to see the second exhaust dye bath? Because it's just as cool. Ta-da! This one actually shows, oh, hold on, listen. Do you hear that? That's the cicadas. Okay, this one, the iron dipped area shows up much more clearly. You can see it's like duller here and here. And then there's this beautiful bright sunshine yellow all the rest of the way through it. Look how bright and happy that is. Look at the difference in the yellows. Though this one is lighter, it's no less saturated. Like check this out up close. There's no white speckles, there's no pale spots. It's completely saturated, just in a completely different color yellow. When you hold them up together, this almost looks like, I don't know, green or brown or something. And it's such a bright yellow when you see it compared to the white. Look at these three up close together. Aren't they amazing? Like, what? How cool is that? So that is the things we got done for handmade stuff this week. We did 2 skeins of wool, hand dyed with goldenrod. We did a whole bunch of canned things that are gonna be great in the fridge in the coming weeks, and some of the months. The sun-dried tomatoes, this will last all winter. I mean, we'll eat them before they go bad, but like they would have been fine to stay in the fridge all winter, which is awesome. I'm gonna be making more of those. I'm gonna try my hand at the eggplant again, with some newfound knowledge, like how I have to be a lot more delicate with the eggplants. The hot sauce, we're gonna try that probably tonight, and if it's good, then I'll make more. And obviously we're gonna dye more yarn next week because I like to dye yarn most weeks. So that's that for that. I hope that you enjoyed. Hope you had a fun time hanging out with me this week doing handmade stuff. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video. Click the like button. It really does help the channel, and I would really appreciate it. And just a shout out to all of my patrons for this month. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. You guys are awesome. Here is the list of names of all of the patrons supporting me right now. I love you guys, thank you so much. And don't forget, if you join my Patreon, you get access to our group Discord, meaning you can share what you're working on, you can ask questions, you can join a little bit more of a dynamic conversation in the live streams, and things of that nature. You also get access to my coloring pages and my bullet journal spreads and anything else that comes to me during the week. I just post in Patreon there. So if that sounds cool, then join. Anyway, friends, that's all for today. I hope you had a good time and I'll see you next week. Bye!